Alexander Usyk's promoter, Alex Krasuk, is apparently in the UK today to sit down face to face with Frank Warren and try and hammer out a deal for this Tyson Fury undisputed unification. But he has doubled down in recent days on this purse split situation. He said, quote, "How can you justify this? Just because he's English doesn't sound like a big justification." From the other side, Fury can say, okay, it doesn't matter to me who I'm fighting, whether it's Usyk or the man from a supermarket. I can still sell out Wembley Stadium. But come on, this is sports. It's not just about professional boxing. Go to Hollywood if you want to make that kind of money. If you're the king, you've got to prove it. Prove it against the guy with 3 belts. I anticipate we will have a good chance to do so. I'm really optimistic. The only thing that can damage the fight is Fury. Usyk is very flexible. Money never touched his heart. He knows if he's successful in the ring, money comes his way. But the only concern I have is Tyson's attitude. If Fury is afraid to lose his popularity, to lose the status he has now, and against Usyk, he has the biggest chance to lose it, he may not be flexible. He might ask for a bigger share to justify his risk. Probably, for him, this is the riskiest fight in boxing. But deep in my heart, I believe he has the heart of a warrior and he will accept the fair conditions and not walk around. Then we can make this fight in the next 3 days. Unquote. So those are the words of Alexander Usyk's promoter, Alex Krasuk. To me, he sounds like he's getting a bit anxious about the situation. You heard there what he said. He believes deep in his heart that Tyson Fury is a warrior and that he will accept the fair conditions. The inference being, if he doesn't accept these conditions, he's not really a warrior. Team Usyk clearly believe that because Usyk has 3 belts and Fury only has 1, that should make up for the fact that Fury is a bigger commercial draw, particularly in London. Also, I wonder whether Team Usyk are frustrated by the fact that the fight couldn't get done in Saudi Arabia. Because, again, according to Usyk's people, they said they were in agreement with their partners in the Middle East. It seems as though Fury's not happy with his deal with the Saudis. Now, we're not privy to the exact amount of money the Saudis were offering Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk, but we do understand that they were doing 2 separate deals. A deal for Fury and a separate deal for Usyk. So imagine if you're Usyk and the Saudis have offered you, let's say, $60 million to fight Fury. And you're very happy with it. You're like, yeah, let's go. But then you hear that Fury's not happy with his deal. Let's say he's been offered $70 million. Fury's like, nah, I want more than that. I want in the hundreds of millions. Then all of a sudden, the talks with the Saudis break down because Fury's not happy with what he's getting. And then you hear that the fight's going to go to London. And in London, Fury only wants to give you, let's say, 40%. He'll be actually making less than what the Saudis were offering him. And you'll be making significantly less than what the Saudis were offering you. At that point, you're going to say, what on earth is going on here? This guy wants us to make less money. And not only that, he's not willing to do 50-50 because if we'd done it in Saudi, I would have made a lot more money than the 40% I'm being offered now. And it's because of this guy that we're not doing the fight in Saudi, not me. I was happy to go ahead with the fight there with what I was being offered. If that's what's transpired behind the scenes, and I can't say for certain that it has, but if that is the case, then you can imagine that Usyk and his team would be tremendously frustrated and they would have to be questioning whether Tyson Fury really wants this fight at this point. Because some of the stuff that Fury may have done would seem illogical, right? Alex Krasuk said that he thinks Fury sees the Usyk fight as the most difficult in the division. And I suspect he is absolutely 100% bang on correct. I think Fury does see this as the most difficult fight in the division, despite all the things he says to the contrary, same as his dad. I think the proof is in the pudding. And if this fight was as easy as Fury's making it out to be, I think a deal would have already been reached. That's not to say that Fury can't win this fight, by the way. In fact, sometimes you'll go into a fight thinking it's going to be extremely difficult, and it turns out to be easier than you thought. I mean, that was kind of the case for the Deontay Wilder rematch, the second fight. Fury went in there expecting quite a difficult night's work, but after the fight, some of you guys may remember, Fury said he was disappointed with what Wilder produced. He thought Wilder would be a lot tougher than he was. Now, I'm not saying that will be the case with Alexander Usyk necessarily, but it does happen. There are certain fans, and not just Fury fanatics, but even relatively neutral people who think that Tyson Fury is a firm favorite against Usyk and that it will be relatively straightforward for him. But I don't think Tyson Fury believes that. I think Fury genuinely sees this as a seriously tricky fight, a fight where he may have to dig deep to get the victory. Not because he's been hurt or anything like that necessarily, but because he may have been made to look clumsy through long stretches of this fight, trying to get to grips with and chase down an opponent who's smaller, faster, better coordinated, more accurate, and so on. I've said in many previous videos, and I'll say it again here, it is a really bad thing when fans put a crown on a fighter and call him the king of the division when he hasn't yet become undisputed and fought most or all of the other top guys. Because when they do that, it removes the incentive for him to fight the other top guys. Now, in some instances, the other top guys might be cash cows, so there's still an incentive there. But in this particular case with Fury and Usyk, Usyk isn't a cash cow. Tyson Fury can probably make more money fighting Anthony Joshua or Francis Ngannou than he would make fighting Alexander Usyk. So when you're telling Fury he's the number one in the division, he beats Usyk easy. And I'm not talking to the Tyson Fury fanatics here because they are incapable of being objective. They're a lost cause. No, I'm trying to appeal to the people who are capable of objectivity, the neutrals, who just through their own assessment believe that Fury is the number one. It's a very bad thing. It's very damaging to the sport. I'm going to go as far as saying that. When you start putting that crown on fighters who haven't actually won it by becoming undisputed, beating the other top guys, the other champions in the division yet. Yeah, Fury's got a couple of good wins on his record, but he hasn't fought Usyk. I mean, that's an elephant in the living room. This isn't a guy like Klitschko who was at the top several years ago. This is a guy who's at the top now, as in the upper echelons of the division. Not that Usyk is the number one, and not that Fury is the number one. We need to prove who the number one is by having these two guys face each other. So let's not remove the incentive by giving somebody that crown prematurely. Because think about it. If this Usyk-Fury fight doesn't happen, Fury goes off and fights Ngannou, beats him easy, Usyk has to fight his mandatories. He's not getting any younger. What is he, 35, 36, Usyk? Let's say Usyk has a couple fights, ends up losing to somebody else, while Tyson Fury's having these easy fights. Then Fury can turn around and say, hey, look, I told you the guy was no good. Imagine what I would have done to him. He can claim credit for being better. He can almost claim credit for beating Usyk without actually having to beat him because of the perception that boxing fans have that he's the number one anyway and he would beat Usyk anyway. You see? It's very damaging when fans start to get into this mindset. This is what Mayweather relied on so much. Certain fighters are very sly like that. They're very sneaky and manipulative like that. If they're going to declare themselves to be the number one in the division, or even like Tyson Fury, claiming he's the best heavyweight of all time, we have to hold them to that standard. And that standard isn't based upon perception. That standard is based upon resume. At a bare minimum, if you want to be in that conversation for greatest heavyweight of all time, you need to be fighting everybody in your division. You need to clean the division out. That's how high the standard is. That's what Ali did. That's what Joe Louis did. This is what the great heavyweights do. They clean the division out. Then we can put you in that conversation realistically. With Tyson Fury, what has he had, 5 or 6 world title fights, 3 of them against the same guy? You're saying that stacks up next to Ali's resume, where he had loads and loads of world title fights. I forget the exact number now. I think it was over 20. Lennox Lewis had 17. Mike Tyson had 16. Here's Tyson Fury with like 5 or 6, 3 against the same guy. Come on, people. Let's hold him up to the standard that he claims he's at. He says he's the greatest of all time. Let's demand that he proves it with the fights in the ring, the necessary fights, not Francis Ngannou, Alexander Usyk, Joe Joyce, Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz, Philip Hergovich, Michael Hunter, these kind of guys. Anyway, based upon what Frank Warren and Alex Krasuk have said in the past week, it seems like crunch time for this fight. Either it gets made this week in the next, well, Krasuk said 3 days. Frank Warren said the next week. Either it gets made in the next, let's say, 7 days, or it doesn't happen at all, and Tyson Fury fights somebody else in April at Wembley Stadium. Let's hope that it's the former, and the undisputed fight does get made and does get announced very, very soon. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below.
Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast, where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.